Hello everyone, this is Miss K with a learning video on surface area of prisms. Today we looked at a filing cabinet and we determined how many sticky notes it would take to cover it by using our knowledge of surface area without using a formula. With this foldable, we're going to find a more efficient way to find the surface area of a prism by using a formula that we can derive from what we did today. So the SOL for this, let's put it right here. The Virginia SOL is actually 7.4. This is a 7th grade SOL, not an 8th grade SOL. And that's really sloppy. Sorry about that. So we're going to just simply go through and do a couple of examples using the formula. And we're just plugging in numbers into the formula and solving it. But we do need to keep in consideration that when we have practical problems that involve surface area, that we don't always cover all the surfaces. So the formula itself is great. You can just plug in numbers and be done. But we also have to keep in mind that sometimes, just like with the filing cabinet where we didn't cover the bottom, we're not always covering or painting all of the complete surface. And that is real life math. We don't always cover the whole surface. If you guys look at, if I wanted to paint the walls in this learning cottage, I would not be painting what? The floor and maybe not the ceiling, and then even the windows, like taking out the windows, not the door. So there are practical problems that we need to consider when finding surface area of prisms. So let's start with the first example. This is a problem in which we're going to find the entire surface area of the prism. So the first thing that we're going to do, because we know it's surface area, we're going to write down the formula. Surface area is represented by SA, and it's 2 times length times width plus 2 times length times height plus 2 times width times height. Okay, there's 2 because I have a top and a bottom. There's a 2 here, length times height, because I have a front and a back. And then width times height, I also have 2 sides. So that's where the 2 comes from. So this is our top and our bottom. This is our right and our left. No, it's not. Because this is our length, this is our width, this is our height. So the height and the width, oh yeah, this is our front and back. And then the width and the height are our sides, our left and right. So we have 6 total faces on a prism, on a rectangular prism. A prism is a 3-dimensional shape with 2 congruent bases because you have the bottom is congruent to the top. Every parallel base or every parallel face is going to be congruent. Okay, so we've got the top and the bottom are congruent, the front and the back, and the left and the right. So when we have a problem like this, the quickest way to do it is just to plug in the numbers from the problem because it's asking us to find the entire surface area. So I'm going to simply plug in the numbers. So it's going to be 2 times 10 times 5 plus 2 times 10 times 2 plus 2 times 5 times 2. So I've labeled my shape so it's really easy for me to just plug in my numbers. And then I'm going to take my calculator and I can multiply each set of faces, congruent faces, one at a time. Like I could do 2 times 10 times 5, 2 times 10 times 2, 2 times 5 times 2, and then add them all together. Or I could just put them all in my calculator at once. So if I chose to do them separately, 2 times 10 is 20, 20 times 5 is 100. 2 times 10 is 20, times 2 is 40. 2 times 5 is 10, 10 times 2 is 20. So I could add those together and I get 160 centimeters. And then what is the unit that I use with this? Was this squared? Good. It's square because it's just a surface area. We're just talking about the surface, which is 2-dimensional. It's not 3-dimensional, which is what we use for volume. We're not filling up the prism, we're covering it. All right, so let's go over and look at the second example to the right. Got example 2. And a room has a length of 24 feet, a width of 7 feet, and a depth of 5. Depth would be like height. We could use that. So we're going to write down our formula. Surface area equals 2 times length times width times 2 times length times height plus 2 times width times height. A couple of things about the formula. Number one, you don't have to memorize it. You will be given it on a formula sheet. I won't give you any assessment where you have to memorize it. However, you guys were able to do the filing cabinet problem without a formula, right? Because you understood how the formula worked. These are just, you get your 6 faces of the shape and you find their areas and add them together. So this one again is a problem where I'm just finding, it's just asking for the surface area. It's not saying that part of it won't be covered. I'm finding the entire surface area of the room. So maybe now I'm interested in carpeting the room and painting the room. Maybe there are no windows in the room. Or maybe I'm going to subtract that later. But this would just be a basic problem where I'm finding the entire surface area of the room. So I'm just going to plug in my numbers just like I did with the last problem. 2 times 24 times 17 plus 2 times 24 times 5 plus 2 times 17 times 5. And this time, let's go ahead and just plug those in our calculators. Do it all at once. As long as you don't press your equal key until you're done. I'm just entering in my numbers. And then equal at the end. Did anybody get the answer? I want to double check it with mine. Fatima? That's what I got too. So it'd be 1,226 square feet. Okay. Now the reason why I asked if somebody else got it, when you're putting this many numbers into a calculator, you can make mistakes. I do it all the time. I make mistakes if I forget a key or my nail hits it or something, or I get an extra number in there. So it's also always best when you use a calculator to get the same answer twice. Like go ahead and do it again, or find some, if you're working in your groups, just confirm with someone else that that's the answer that they got so you don't make careless errors. Now the way to eliminate that error, the likelihood of error, is to do like we did with the first problem. You do the 2 length times width, 2 length height, 2 width and height separately. All right. The next problem, a toy box has a length of 4.5 feet, a width of 2 feet, and is 3 feet tall. So again, we have our length, width, and the tall would be the height. We're going to apply our formula. Surface area equals 2 times length times width times 2 times length times height plus 2 times width times height. I'm going to simply put in my numbers. 2 times 4.5 times 2 plus 2 times 4.5 times 3 plus 2 times 2 times 3. Okay. I'm going to go back and do this one like I did the first one because I can do this mentally. That's another advantage of not using a calculator. I could do each of these separately in my head and then add them together. So 2 times 4.5 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 2 times 4.5 again is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. And then 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. And then I'm going to add the 18 and 12 together. I can use the commutative property to move them in my head. 30 plus 27, which is 57 square feet. Now the last problem is more like the filing cabinet problem. So what I would like you to do, now that we've looked at these 3 examples, is to try this problem on your own by using the formula in deciding if anything needs to change about the formula, and coming up with the answer, showing your work at the bottom. We will have the rest of class to finish up that problem, and we'll start class by looking at it tomorrow. And that's our lesson on surface area of rectangular prisms.